ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell, joined as always by Zach Bartle. Zach, what's going on, man, other than the fact that you and I absolutely cannot get our timing down?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I'm out of sorts this week. My wife is out of town for the week, and so it's just me and my son, and it's been just a whirlwind of, like, fast food and staying up late, and basically I'm acting like a child as well, which is the responsible thing to do,
Absolutely.
when caring for a 10-year-old, and our goal is to have we finished Dragon Prince, which we're going to talk about. Our goal is to finish binge watching for like the 7th time season 1 of Cobra Kai before Mom gets back.
Nice.
And we're well on our way. Then we're going to go to a Renaissance festival this weekend, which he's never been to, which is exciting.
Cool.
Dorky, but exciting.
Dude, that sounds awesome. Sounds like a great weekend.
Yeah. And so right now, speaking of being a child, I'm sitting on a swing at a park, looking out at I don't know what river this is, Red Cedar River, I think, in beautiful East Lansing, Michigan. While my son is learning to like knife disarm and like dislocate people's heads and everything at karate.
Sweet, sounds like a good time.
Absolutely, man. It's all coming up, Zach, these days. Oh, one more thing. I think I've pretty much completed the Pac-Man device. I had to open up the thing I was using. I was using a one of those like plug and play deals, the guts of that for the software, and I messed the first one all up. All my solders pulled away, and the whole thing was. So I bought another one, and I didn't tell anyone. Didn't tell the wife especially, but it arrived, and I did it all again today, and I think we're in business. All the buttons seem to be working. Everything seems to be working.
Nice.
So anybody wants to come by the Nakatomi Smoke Room for a cigar, you bring me a cigar, and then more than likely I'll invite you down to the burgeoning arcade in the basement.
Nice. Dude, you're going to have to Facebook Live that.
Heck yeah.
That'd be great. Well, before we get into our topics today, and as you already said, we're going to be talking about one of those things. We actually have two sponsors this week. One of them you don't know about, Zach. One of them is, of course, Missional Wear, as always. Love their products. I'm going to highlight their beer glasses that they have because it's going to actually lead into our second sponsor this week. So check out Missional Wear and check out the beer glasses they have. Of course, you can get the These Go to 11 beer glasses. We've sent those out as giveaways in the past, but you can also check out different reformers profiles on them as well. So they have a bunch of different ones. So check out Missional Wear and check out their line of beer glasses for the holiday season. I know they tend to put out a gift set, and I actually think they still have one with These Go to 11 in the gift set with them. So check it out. Our second sponsor is going to be Honeygo Wine and Spirits. They're actually the liquor store that I used to work for here in Maryland. They're holding their 10th annual Beer Fest on October 6th from noon to 4. This is a great event. It's basically pay, I think it is $35 in advance and then $45 at the door. But from noon to 4, it's all you can drink. They also have different things for wine drinkers as well. So if you're not into beer, they'll have some wine samplings going on that you can taste. And then they'll also have food trucks that you can buy different varieties of food from, and a live band as well. So always a great time. October 6th, noon to 4.
Are you trying to get me fired or something over here?
I'm just, this is just me promoting a festival here in Maryland.
Don't you know how fundamentalists work, man? If I am associated with you, and you are, like, say your neighbor is a 33rd degree Mason, and his, niece's piano teacher works at a liquor store, I still get fired. I'm sorry, finish your plug there.
We'll blank out the beer part, and we'll just say fest. But no, definitely check out Honeygo Wine and Spirits on Facebook. Check them at Honeygo Wines on Twitter. And you'll be seeing some different announcements and plugs for them this whole week. But it's a great event, always one that I enjoy going to when I can. And I have 2 tickets in my possession that I am going to give away to our listeners if they retweet or repost a Facebook post we put out. So between now and, let's say, Tuesday, if we see a retweet or a repost, you'll be able to win 2 tickets. So check it out.
Now, is Greg Dutcher able to do that, or is he, like if you work for Kellogg's, you're out of the running for their giveaways and things?
Greg would be able to do it because he's no longer full time. So we don't do you can't be full time on these Go to 11 and still do it, but part time or previous hosts can.
Pretty sweet deal for Greg Dutcher. By the way, Nathan, I know you didn't listen to the entire episode from last week because you only listened to hear the sound of your own voice. But I do believe that I convinced our guest that James King is a real person. And what's more, that he was my mentor in seminary.
Oh, dude, that's nice. That's hysterical. We got to get him back on, James King.
Yes.
I'll have to see if I can brokerage something with him. Maybe we'll say something on the podcast this week that'll annoy him and get him to come back on and do something.
Well, you've already, you're on the right track talking about drinking and all you can drink.
That's right. We're well on our way. Oh, man. So let's, I was texting you was it last week or this week? I don't know. It was at some point. And, I'm always trying to think of what can we do that's a little new, a little different, or even what can we do that we've done before, but, something new with that. And so we've reviewed movies on here before. We've reviewed shows on here before. I think it was last week you posted something about The Dragon Prince. I absolutely thought that show was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And so I thought it would be cool if you and I just did a little review segment on it. Have you had a chance to see the whole thing yet, Zach?
Oh, yeah. We burned right through that puppy. 2-3 days.
Yeah, nice. So I guess first it would, be good if we kind of gave, overall, description of it, just general description of it for listeners out there. Try not to give away any spoilers or anything like that, but basically it's set in a land where magic and magical creatures and humanoids have been divided from humans. And there's this kind of war that's been waging over the years, and you find yourself kind of wrapped up into this fantasy world that I really enjoyed. I thought that the way they handled the characterization of the main character, the protagonist and the antagonist, I thought everything just fit really well together with this. That I wasn't actually sure initially that I was going to enjoy. Now, I know the writers of Avatar: The Last Airbender are the ones who are working on this, and so I thought I would like it to a certain extent, but I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I was going to. What were your thoughts?
Now, hold on there, man. I gotta float something your way, and that is that we have a listener on this program who lives not far from me.
Okay.
I only ever met him because of this program and our connection through it. His name is Zach Burnham.
Okay.
His wife actually hooked us up with Gret and the whole donor seat thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So this guy, he's the dude with the laser who made those dope coasters for me, and so we hung out, and I was like, man, what's your favorite thing? Like, what's your pastime? And he was like, basically, man, I got a laser and I got my favorite show, which is Avatar, the Last Airbender. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And I was like, isn't that an M. Night Shyamalan movie? And he punched me in the throat 3 times in rapid succession.
As well as he should have.
But he loves it, right? Like, I mean, and you should check out his stuff on Twitter. There's a game that they play apparently in that program that he makes with the laser and everything. I mean, like, he's really, really into it. Kind of probably how, like, I'm into Cobra Kai or even more.
Nice.
And so when I saw the preview for Dragon Prince, I'm always looking at what's coming up on Netflix. And when I saw that preview, I tweeted him. And I'm like, dude, from the creator of Avatar, you're going to love this, right? And he writes back, slow your roll there, man. This is not the creator of Avatar. These are people who were, like, tangentially involved. I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure you can find the tweet if you care to look for it. That these people often get credit for Avatar, but not really the actual creator. What do you know about that?
See, now, I didn't think they were the creators. I thought they were the writers. So you have the creators of Avatar, but these were the writers from the show, from my understanding, who actually created this show, The Dragon Prince.
Okay, now in my mind, a really pure show, it's going to have there's going to be total overlap there. I mean, you'll have some writers, you'll have a writer's room, but your creator is always going to be your head runner, your showrunner, your head writer. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
But at the same time, if you're adapting a comic, which I don't know if this is, maybe it is or maybe it isn't, or something to that effect, yeah, sometimes somebody would have really the vision to take it into a different medium and write for it, but they didn't create it. Okay, all right, so that's enough nerdy minutia, pedantry.
So you have not seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, is that correct?
I have not.
Okay.
And I probably will check it out because I thought, I mean, like if I loved The Dragon Prince, would I like that?
I think so, yeah. Actually, one of the voice actors from Avatar: The Last Airbender is in The Dragon Prince.
Right, Callum, the main guy?
Yep. So there's a lot of his, like, that guy's particular brand of, like, you know, that kind of, like, screaming humor stuff that he does is in Avatar, which really makes the show. I mean, it's got this set of characters very similar to The Dragon Prince that you really enjoy following on their adventure, and you enjoy see them grow and develop and become the people that they're supposed to be. Yeah, I think you would really like it.
Very cool. Let me tell you what I loved about The Dragon Prince. And this blew my mind. I watched 4 or 5 eps with my son because he watched a couple and he immediately came and got me. I was like, Dad, you have to see this.
Nice.
So we watched a few. And, you know, with Netflix, it starts the next one automatically, and these things are real short because there's no commercials, and they just go by real quick. So I get, you know, I'm hip deep in this thing. He goes to bed, and I get on Facebook, and I write, the Dragon Prince is amazing. Somebody, a dude from the Gut Check Army, which frankly is disappointing me all over the place lately, in that they have barely bought enough T-shirts for me and Ted to get our own T-shirts. And you know, we have been recording but not releasing because we're like Lucille Bluth in that we get off on withholding.
Right.
But so this guy jumps on and says, "Accept the animation."
Really?
And I go, "What, dude? The animation was the best part." And I really wanted like a really nerdy online debate, but he never responded. I thought the animation, that it reminded me so much of movies that I used to rent from like the 70s and 80s.
Yep.
That had that kind of a little bit jumpy.
Yeah. But
like the movements are all hyper real. It kind of reminded me of the old cell animation where they actually would do it on top of.
Yep.
Yeah. Like film.
Yep.
Sorry if I just made a big noise. I killed a mosquito. Good grief! It's fall and I'm killing mosquitoes. And so I love the animation. I loved the world that they built, even though there was nothing unique about it.
Yep.
I've seen every element of it before, the way they wove them together. I loved the bifurcation of the kind of natural magic
Yep.
sourced in creation and the dark magic, which is stuff that when I was a kid made parents freak out.
Oh, yeah.
In the 80s. You remember this, like, it's all black magic.
Right.
Well, in this world, there is, good magic and evil magic.
Right.
And I loved, and this probably annoyed some people, I loved the, importing through the back door of modern slang and sense of irony and sense of humor into this, epic monarchy world. I really thought it was really well done in a way that just satisfied the heck out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I agree with you on the animation, too, Avatar The Last Airbender has what would be more almost anime style. It's a really weird hybrid blend of, anime and American animation that I think is really good. Nickelodeon did a really good job of putting it together. But I agree with you. I thought the animation really made for a well done show here. I didn't feel. I felt like there were some instances where it was like that choppier, but I think that was intentional. I mean, this is the type of animation that it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be that clean, fluid move through. And like you said, it to me, it adds to the world and it adds to the story that they're trying to tell.
It felt like you're reading a storybook.
Yeah.
Or like a big, like the Princess Bride story, that's the book that Peter Faulkner pulls out that's 2 inches thick, but somehow you can read it in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And you turn to a page that has an illustration, and the illustration just starts moving.
Yes.
It had that vibe to it. And I loved that there was a back and forth, and sometimes even interspersed together of 3D backgrounds. They would do camera movements and stuff, 3D, which, that's no big deal. Everyone does. But then, they'd flip to a different POV, and all of a sudden, all the backgrounds are ink and watercolor. Oh my gosh, it was really, really well done. And I am I'm not sick of, I'm just nonplussed by CGI.
Yes.
I mean, I'm tired of that. I miss cartoons.
Yep.
And this was like the ultimate cartoon to scratch that itch for me.
Yeah. I was getting caught up on Voltron Legendary Defender today, another Netflix original, remake of the old 80s one. And it was fascinating to me how they do some of that stuff in theirs as well. Not as much, but there is some stuff where they just interestingly slow down the action, and you feel like you're almost watching, like you were talking about, that overlay matting type stuff. But how in other things where it really tends to count, you have that crisp, fluid animation, but it's animation. It's not CGI. And you're right. I miss that, and I enjoy that. I remember thinking that the first time I noticed that, man, a lot of cartoonists or a lot of animators are really moving to the CGI stuff, and how it just frustrated me, how annoying it was. I thought it was cool in certain instances, but I miss that animation, and I'm drawn to cartoons and shows that really do that.
Dude, so Calvin and my son and I went and saw Teen Titans Go to the movies.
Yep.
Which, by the way, hysterical.
Nice.
I hurt myself laughing at that. But I got done with it. I always go on IMDb and I always read the trivia, and I really miss the forums. That was one of my favorite things to do after I saw a movie.
Yep.
Was go on and debate and theorize and stuff, which is what Reddit's for now, I guess. But I went on there, and the trivia said, now it's 2018, and it said this is only, I want to say, the fourth or maybe the fifth traditionally animated film with wide release in this decade so far, since 2010. And what's more, there's only 2 more scheduled for release before 2020. And the others were My Little Pony, Winnie the Pooh, which actually was kind of money. The Winnie the Pooh from like 2012 or whatever,
Yep.
with Zooey Deschanel's music. I don't remember what the other ones, but I mean, it's just like they're a rare breed.
Yeah.
You know, they're endangered.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. This is why Pixar is so good, because it's almost impossible to get real soul into CGI characters.
Yes.
And Pixar can do it most of the time, but most people who try, it falls flat.
Right.
Whereas when somebody's skilled animator is, and obviously they're still using computers, it's all computer assisted now, and it will be forever, and that's great. They can do them faster and less busy work. Mm-hmm. But when someone's really drawing, there's a different, like you're getting into that person's soul more. I think there's more artistic interface between the creator and the viewer.
Yeah. No, I agree. I almost feel like the CGI stuff has more of that claymation feel to a certain extent. Back in like the 1970s where they were messing around with all those Christmas claymation movies, like I remember when it first came out thinking like this is, oddly similar to that, just the texturing and all of that stuff. Of course, the speed and the movements and all that stuff are much cleaner, but that texturing almost feels like that. And I remember I enjoyed that aspect for a very different reason than I enjoyed the animation aspect of things. And so I'm all about them doing animation stuff. Netflix to me has not been disappointing with the animations that they have been coming out with, and I hope they continue to do a lot more.
Yeah, and what's funny to me with the animation, the CGI animation, is like one of the best things ever done was the first thing ever done.
Yeah.
Which is, what year did they make Jurassic Park? Was that in 1990, or did it come out in 90 and they made part of it in 89?
That was, Jurassic Park was 93.
No.
Yeah, Jurassic Park, I'm pretty sure was 93. I'll double check that.
93?
Yeah.
Well, I'm way off base. Okay, I remember having a T-Rex poster in my bedroom, and where he's roaring in front of the Jurassic Park gate, and I was thinking it was when I was in like junior high, but it must have been early high school. Okay. Either way, that was like, to me, mind-blowing. I'm sure it was to you as well.
Yep.
And they figured out pretty quick the way to make it all look real is A, low light, B, lots of water.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and in the few shots, like, when Dr. Grant hops out of the Jeep, broad, sunny day, and he's looking at the herbivore, whatever they are, apatosaurus or whatever, it looks pretty fake. Yeah. And when you look at it now, you're like, ooh, that looks pretty fake. But I feel like now even... Okay, so it's 25 years later, right? Is my math like worthwhile there?
Yeah.
It's 25 years later, and when they show the monster in full direct sunlight, it still feels pretty fake.
Yeah.
I mean, it's realer than it was back then, but in order to make me really believe and suspend animation completely, ooh, did you see that? I meant suspend disbelief, but I said suspend animation, like suspended animation. Freud's having a field day.
That's right.
In my head. But in order to get me to really buy into it, you got to get the low light situation, shadows. Yep. Things have to be a little obscured, and I don't know what it is. There's something about the way that the light plays off of things in high light situations that they still haven't quite gotten. Mm-hmm. I wonder if they'll ever completely overcome that. I remember the first few times I saw like humans being animated for a whole movie, like Beowulf.
Yep.
Thinking, man, that looks so plastic, it looks so fake, nothing about it feels real. And I still feel like there's an element of that.
Yeah.
I feel like absolutely, not so much Voltron, even though it's super cool, but the Dragon Prince felt more real than 2/3 of the CGI. Even the CGI people that they get slipped into, the Gollum.
Yeah.
I believe it was the guy from Weta on the behind-the-scenes thing for the Lord of the Rings who said, Gollum is beyond anything we've ever accomplished in effects. And still, it's not that great. It's cool. I couldn't do it, but I'd rather have seen like a little like gimpy guy in a suit, kind of selling it to me.
Right.
And I prefer a cartoon until we've gotten to the point where I don't have to not think about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, I don't think we're actually going to ever get to that point, because I was thinking about this. I really feel like, back when I watched Jurassic Park, Lord of the Rings, things like that, I think there was also an element to this technology that we were watching these things on that allowed us to feel that like they were more real. So, you have a grainier television that's using analog instead of digital, and so things aren't as crisp, they're not as clear, and so you can suspend it a little bit more because the technology isn't there. I have a friend who goes out and gets, whatever the latest and greatest technology is, they're on top of it. So, they're going out and now getting that 4K TV and 4K DVD player and all that stuff. And the thing is, it looks more fake the better you get with the technology, because it's not it's not
funny
seamlessly.
Paradox.
Yeah, it really is, because it's not blending together, I think, the way they want it to. Now, I will say, watching something that is more animated or completely CGI'd looks better on those. I think you do get an element where things are looking better with the technology, but when you try to blend the two technologies together, it really is making it more and more wonky. I remember I was watching the Avengers, the first one, which came out in 2012.
I thought that was 1990.
The Avengers?
I'm just making a self-deprecating joke. Are you the KJV guy from last week?
No, at least I'm laughing now. I wish I had the little crickets button that I could just turn on and be like, chirp, 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 chirp. But I was watching that recently on, this high def 4K thing, and it was like, it didn't look as good as I remembered it in the theaters. It was just the animation between the CGI stuff they were doing and the real people. Like, the picture was super clear, but I think that actually distracted from the actual animation and the actual CGI. Whereas if it had been a little grainier or a little less clear, it would have I think it would have still blended well. But
that's why we all are going to go back to CRT monitors, man.
That's right.
There are red, green, and blue dots, and they create the illusion of color.
That's right. That's why you're storing up now, right?
Dude, I actually just got a hold of one of those for the Pac-Man machine.
Nice.
I wasn't about to sell out and put it in a flat screen monitor. No way.
Nice.
But even I have one of the first LCD TVs of anybody in my friend group. Mm-hmm. The story behind it is I bought a really expensive Palm Pilot.
Okay.
It's called a Palm TX.
Yep.
It was like the last one that Palm really made that everyone went gaga over. After that, everyone was like, why are you still making these things? Phones. But I got the Office Depot or whatever where I bought it. I got the plan to cover it.
Yep.
And it started acting wonky, and I told them it was, and they said, well, send it back. And then they sent me a gift card for $600 or whatever. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go on eBay and buy an older Palm. And then I bought this, 2-ton flat screen LCD. And I noticed what you're talking about, that when I'm at the Best Buy or whatever, and I'm looking at these really high end things, if it's a shot of, just like a scene in nature or something, which often they do to show off those TVs, It looks breathtakingly real.
Yeah.
But there's the old sermon illustration, and it's actually older than you'd think, because I have it in a early 90s sermon illustration book about high definition TV, which was just brand new idea.
Yep.
How, like the Cosby Show, can I even talk about that now in light of other things?
Right.
Let's say on Family Ties, in the background,
yeah.
if there's a bookshelf, they would just, some guy in sets would just paint the spines of all the books,
Yep.
Give me a green brush, boom, give me and your TV was so crappy, it didn't matter. It all looked real. Your mind was filling in stuff.
Yep.
And to some degree, my old it's high def technically. It's 1080 whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the good one isn't. It really hides a lot of the telltale marks of blended animation, CGI animation.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a better way to watch traditional animation too, is for there to be a little room, a little forgiveness in there.
Yeah.
And we're not ever going to get back to an age where it's not total clarity all the time.
Right.
Which kind of, I don't know, that kind of bums me out.
Yeah.
Everything is, and what happens is it gets harder and harder for regular people to be able to enter into that space and create something.
Yeah.
Because it becomes more and more specialized. You have to be able to make every pixel look right now. We were dealing with, I don't know how many pixels there were on a traditional tube TV, but now we're dealing with millions and millions and millions of them.
Right.
And it's hard to make that look. I just made a video for my church, and even with the real simple stuff I was doing, I was like, man, it was so much easier when I had my big chunky VHS camcorder and my little editing box, and I could kind of stitch everything together.
Yep.
It was such a simple thing, and now everything is just getting more and more challenging. And again, it's progress, it's good. But that's one, I guess, are we even talking about the Dragon Prince anymore? That's one thing about it. It was charming. That's the one word I would say about it. It was charming, first and foremost, in that way that we've been talking about. And then it was exciting and heartwarming and suspenseful and funny and fun. But first and foremost, it had that sense of nostalgia, even while being such a product of 2018.
Yeah. Agree 100%. So, yeah, all that to say, go back to old technology, and in the process, check out The Dragon Prince. It's a great show.
Now, have they gotten picked up for a second one? Because it ended with a real cliffhanger.
As far as I know, it did.
Nice.
So we, hopefully within the next, and the nice thing is the animation, they've really seemed to be kind of chunking out there every few months. You don't necessarily have to wait a
Voltron's
few
like
years.
Every weekend they come out with another season.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that the nice thing is, like Voltron, they really seem to be, pushing this out more and more. If they do this similar to the way they did Avatar, there's only going to be a certain number, 3 or 4 of these, books as they call them in the series. And then, it'll be done, which I kind of like. I'm enjoying Voltron. I'm liking it, but I also like that hopefully this is going to have a very definitive storyline that's going to, end after a few seasons. So
I hope they already know how it's supposed to end. You can tell. And as an author, I don't like the lost experience where you can feel them going, oh crap, what was that? We didn't know. We just thought that it would make people want to keep watching.
Right.
I feel like they do though.
Yeah.
And you know what I love about Netflix, and for some reason I've heard like 4 or 5 people bring this up in the past month, is how essentially now, it used to be, it was Norm on a Netflix show, ironically. Norm Macdonald was talking about this.
Okay.
It used to be when you write for TV, no characters can change, right? Like Roseanne's got to be Roseanne week after week, right? If you're Michael Scott, you can't grow. And then in a movie, the characters have to change. They have to grow. They have to have an arc.
Right.
And Netflix has created this new genre of basically the 20-hour movie.
Yes.
Or 10-hour movie, or whatever the case, where you can get both.
Yes.
You can have the recurring gags, and you can take your time, really sussing out the plot and the characters, but you can also have this character arc.
Yes.
And that would be really cool to see with, stuff like, they've done a great job with that with Voltron. And granted, talking about this stuff on Facebook is what made that one guy brand me a boy pastor and mock me. And I'm like, really? I can't be into this stuff and enjoy it with my son?
I know,
and enjoy
right?
it for the nostalgia and because it's good storytelling and it's not dirty like everything else. Okay,
Right.
whatever. But I thought, I would have watched The Dragon Prince with or without my 10-year-old.
Yeah.
It was just good storytelling.
Yeah. I grew up watching cartoons. I remember, watching a lot of the reruns of like the Super Friends show and things like that. And then, growing up in the 80s, you had He-Man and Ghostbusters and Thundercats and, so many to me that were just fun animation shows. I mean, Brave Star, which a lot of people don't really know about, but absolutely phenomenal animation and phenomenal storytelling too. That really, explored characterization and depth, and so I remember growing up with a lot of those shows, and I remember looking back on the landscape of television. I think it was like, or cartoon television, like the late 90s, going into the early 2000s, and like, man, where's all the like good cartoons that are coming out? And like, I at that point I was babysitting a lot more, and I actually was doing stints where I was nannying for people at various points in times, and watching some of the things that were on, and like just being disappointed with cartoons in general. And again,
what about Batman the Animated Series?
Well,
man?
but again, you're talking Batman the Animated Series came on earlier 90s, and then going into that, like you had, I think it was like 90, it might have been 99, where you had Batman Beyond, which I think was a really good spin-off of Batman the Animated Series. I don't know if you remember watching that one.
No.
But Batman Beyond was really good. Will Friedle actually took up the mantle of Terry McGinnis Batman, and you still had Kevin Conroy, who was voicing old Bruce Wayne at that point. I felt like, those were really great, but it was a short-lived series. You had Batman the Animated Series, which went on for, I think, 7 or 8 years maybe, and then you go into Batman Beyond, which lasted about 3, but then they started really pulling away from the animation, and they started, again, moving more into that CGI stuff. And I remember for the longest time, students coming into class talking about things like SpongeBob and, Aquanauts and, I mean, all this stuff. And it's like, I was kind of disappointed with where cartoons had gone. And I remember the first time I really got excited again was Phineas and Ferb, when Disney came out with that. And that was, the first time in a long time that I was excited about cartoons, and then Netflix started picking all this stuff up. And so, I'm excited for what's going on with it again. And I hope they keep doing good stuff with it, because I'm loving it. Like you said, this is stuff that you would sit down and watch on your own. And I don't have small children, and so I do that now. I mean, I watched the whole Dragon Prince series in one night. Today I had off work, and so I was watching Voltron and getting caught up on that, and just enjoying it. It's just, to me, it's good. It's fun. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to see or hear. And I know I'm going to enjoy the characters, and I'm going to enjoy watching the show and how it progresses.
Nathan, aren't you a little bit old to be watching Phineas and Ferb?
Dude, have you ever seen Phineas and Ferb?
Yes, I set that right up for you, dude. That was like walking over and placing the brand new baseball on the tee. You're supposed to say, "Why, yes."
Yes, I know. I missed it,
dude.
I'm a little out of practice. I've been out a week.
I saw the movie called Into the, what is it called? The Second Dimension.
Oh yeah.
In magnificent 2D.
Yes,
I've seen that probably 20 times because my son was obsessed with it for a while.
Nice.
And it is so funny.
Yeah.
Dude, that show is hilarious. What are the people who made that? What are they doing now? And I don't want to hear you throwing a bunch of hate at SpongeBob. I mean, that's the natural successor to Ren and Stimpy. That's high art.
I could never get into it, and I have a lot of appreciation for the people who voice it. The guy, the guy who voices SpongeBob is the one who voiced Yakko on Animaniacs. So I mean, I could never not love that guy. But yeah, I don't know. I tried getting into it a few times, and just like I don't know what it was. But yeah.
Well, I think we're in a good space now, man, because it's clear that children today, or whoever the target demo is for animation, I sometimes wonder if there are more kids excitedly tuning into Voltron or more Gen Xers. But it's clear that they're yearning for, the audience is yearning for really well done, and it has to be well done, traditional animation, because talk about something like He-Man. I mean, when you go back and watch it, the animation was so sloppy, it sucked. Or do you ever go on YouTube and watch the G.I. Joe PSAs that someone has overdubbed with different words?
Yes.
Because the mouths were just like, I mean, there was no articulation of any, phonetic sounds at all. It was just like the lip appeared and disappeared.
Right.
And it was, they must have just like churned through those. And I remember as a kid watching them and being blown away by how cool it was.
Right.
But it wasn't a good product.
Right.
And what kids are getting today on Netflix or on Amazon Prime, or I assume on cable TV or whatever, is good product. There's real competition right now, and you have to do it well. You have to do it right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the things that are being put out are so much better, and it really is. It's great. I mean, again, talking about the early '90s, brought up Animaniacs. I mean, such a clever show. Have you ever gone back and watched those with your son?
We did watch a few, but I found that we had to pay for each episode.
Okay.
They weren't on Netflix or anything at the time, and he didn't quite get them yet. He was too young. But man, it hurts my abdomen to watch that show.
Yeah.
Just so brilliant. And that came out about the same time as Tiny Toons, which to a lesser degree was also very, very funny.
Yep.
And always had in, just like the old Looney Tunes, they would always backload it with jokes for the parents.
Yeah.
Stuff that no kid's going to get.
Right.
And when you watch the old Looney Tunes, there's stuff that you don't get unless you were, an adult in 1958.
Yeah.
Or, you're like, I don't know what it's just like The Simpsons practically. They're throwing in pop culture references, and then they're throwing in the slapstick anvil falling on somebody.
Right.
And Animaniacs really did that well. They really balanced it out.
Yeah.
I probably should go back and just buy the first season. I bet my whole family would get a kick out of it now.
Yeah. It was on Netflix for a period of time. If you haven't checked in a while, you might want to check. It might be on there now. But it was on there for a little bit, and I just went through them, and like you said, I mean, I was laughing my head off. I couldn't get enough of it. And it was more, it's more than just like the nostalgia. It really, the animation, the jokes, everything just really held up over time. Now, I mean, of course, thinking about it, some of those things wouldn't relate too much to, younger generations, but like you said, you have a lot of that stuff in there, very similar to Looney Tunes and Tiny Toons and all of that, where, those jokes, if you're from that time period, are absolutely fantastic. And then if you're not from that time period, it's the classic slapstick that never dies. So.
Yeah, like a Roadrunner cartoon will never not grab my attention.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like the way that sometimes some people, if they are, in a restaurant and there's like a game on.
Yes.
Like a game on one of the 49 TVs that's for some reason plastered to the walls of every restaurant now. They like can't look away, like they're engaged.
Yes.
Dude, that's how I am. If it's Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
That baller is Bugs Bunny. Remember when he was the whole team?
Yes.
And just to be a jerk, he like completely defeated that actual baseball team.
Yes.
Playing all the positions. Oh my gosh. And there's something funny. Like you have like, I feel Heathcliff. Now that's a deep cut. Remember Heathcliff was like the poor man's Garfield?
Yep.
Kind of did some of this too. Like instead of being the born loser, like all the gags are crap just happens to this person. It's like the born winner.
Yes.
And, there's something very funny about that, too.
Yeah.
And no one will ever surpass those old Looney Tunes for,
oh, no.
I mean, there's no comparison between the sloppy, lazy jokes of like American Dad or,
right.
What's the other one people are still
Family
watching?
Guy.
Family Guy. I never could get into that. I there's one gag from that.
Yeah.
Where this guy was in overalls and he walked out of a door and he burped and a live chicken came out of his mouth and ran away. That every once in a while I think of and I laugh. But I don't know, once you see the formula and you reverse engineer it in your mind,
Yeah.
then nothing surprises you on that show. It's all just meant to shock.
Yeah.
How much better use of time is it? Something that's meant to engage your sense of wonder and creativity. Something like Dragon Prince that takes place,
Yeah.
in a world where it's not quite bound by the rules of our world.
Yes.
And it's about morality at the same time. There's
Yeah.
moral conundra all over the place.
Right. And there's
in that.
and there's clear right and wrong, and it's fascinating because it is so complex. You have people who have been wronged on both sides who are trying to realize their mistakes and mend them, and then you have people who are just so bound by their hatred of one another, and they can't get out of that. I mean, there is a lot going on in there that really surpasses, like you said, that like simple basest humor of things, and it makes it great. Did you ever see a movie back in, I think it was either the late 70s or early 80s, called Flight of Dragons?
No.
Okay. This show reminds me a lot of that. If you get a chance to check it out, it was an animated movie done. John Ritter is actually the voice of the main character. And it's very well done. It's still, if you look it up and you can find a copy of it somewhere, it's definitely worth your time. And a lot of the concepts, that this show talks about with like magic and things that are going on are brought in there, but done just very, very well. I mean, I remember growing up, it was one of the ones that I watched all the time. And this actually Prince of Dragon reminded me of this movie, Flight of Dragons.
And gotta say, one of the major takeaways I had was that I really, really wish I had a pet glow toad.
Yes. That could blind people at will.
It was so great. Oh my gosh, I loved that thing. It was such a great little like comic relief. Just always with them, ready to take the mood in a different direction if it got too dark or heavy or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just such a great cast of characters.
Yes.
And good use of young people, kind of struggling against expectations,
yes,
that are placed on them. I thought that was one of the most fascinating parts of that factor of what do I do when I'm expected. I mean, some of the things were overt. Choose the egg. It's not a spoiler because no one will know what that means.
Right,
but
right.
What do I do? Choose the egg if it comes down to that. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then there's also all these unspoken expectations, and that really, you could mine that, I think, for a good long time. That could have a 5 or 6 season run and not overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
If it's done well.
If it's done well, yeah.
And if they take their time on all of them.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, there's so much going on that really allows you to, I mean, it's just, to me, this show, one of the things that makes this so great in terms of, it's not just a silly cartoon. Like, there is so much going on. It's a fun cartoon, but there is so much going on in the complexity of things, and I enjoy it on the same level that I enjoy other shows that are out there, and I think that's the sign of, a good set of writers and directors, is that they're able to produce this in a medium of being a cartoon and make it fun and make it accessible to children, but also, make it accessible to adults as well.
And, I also appreciated that it was one of the rare examples of children's programming. I mean, again, largely, probably it's going to be filed under that, even though we'll say family program.
Sure. Yeah.
That didn't include a healthy or rather unhealthy dose of left of center social commentary and trying to normalize a bunch of stuff and all this agenda driven garbage. They didn't get caught up in that.
Yes.
And I could have seen that happening. Mm-hmm. It's really refreshing at this point because it's so rare for that never to enter into the picture. That was nice too. I watched it with my kid. I never had to stop and say, okay, now what does God really think about that?
Right.
Rather, we were all kind of just wrapped up in, oh my gosh, what would you do? What are they going to do? Is it going to work? The whole binding.
Mm-hmm.
If I'll just describe this because it's very early on.
Yep.
These elves that are assassins bind themselves literally with like binding cloths on their arms or wrists.
Yep.
And they're going to go kill humans, and it's particular humans. And until they do, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And if they never do kill the person, their hand will just come off, like it will die and fall off.
Yep.
And man, that is just such that'll preach, man.
Yeah.
What a picture of sin and its effects. And the way that resolved or didn't, I won't spoil that.
Right.
I mean, I'm not the guy who's like, find the gospel theme and everything, but that is just very, very overtly, not non-relativistic.
Right.
And that's I guess a corny way to say absolutes.
Yeah.
It was there are absolutes in a world where people are just dealing with shades of gray all the time. There are some absolutes.
Yeah.
I got to go get my kid from karate, dude. The other topic, you know how we always have a second topic and we never get to it?
I know, right?
It was like, what do Christians take too seriously and what do they take not seriously enough? And I think that what we take too seriously might be cartoons.
What? We talked about them for an hour. I mean, how seriously is that? Oh man. No, but I think I enjoyed this. I think this was good. I mean, I was sitting here at the earlier stages like, oh yeah, we'll get like 20 minutes and then we'll move on. And I mean, dude, we're at 51 minutes right now, and I mean, I could still talk another hour about this because I think it is such a great topic, and I think it's enjoyable, and we haven't done one of these in a while, so I think this was good. This was fun, man. I had a good time.
Yeah. And you know what? It's our show, so if people don't want to hear about cartoons,
that's right.
Go listen to the Happy Rant. I don't care. Go listen to the Gut Check podcast, and in order to do that, you have to buy a T-shirt.
That's right. Yeah, people, come on, go buy T-shirts. And in the process, go on Facebook and Twitter and, retweet and retalk about Honey Go Wine and Spirits and win some tickets.
There it is.
All right, man. Well, just like we end everything else, Zach, we just rocked the Casbah.
These go to 11.